Hey, happy Saturday! Would you like to dye some wool with me today? If you want to, keep watching. You're gonna see me right here. I have 1 pound of BFL, which I am famous for felting, by the way, and I am going to soak it in some warm water with about a half a cup of vinegar, roughly. I do not measure pretty much anything ever, so soaking it in some warm, not hot water. I left it about 20 minutes while I got some of the other stuff ready for this little dyeing process. I did have dye stock from last time that I did some dyeing that was already mixed up, and I just save it in like random, well, not random, obviously very professional containers there. You can see my empty Ocean Spray bottle and my empty Powerade bottles. They're definitely required equipment if you're going to dye. Not really. I am just arranging that roving after squeezing it out kind of lightly in the bottom of a stainless steel hotel pan. I think I got this on Amazon for about $17. And I'm going to do this in layers. They're definitely laying in a loose layer on the bottom. And it is worth noting that if you're going to use this technique and do some dyeing in layers, the first layer that goes in is going to get more dye because you're going to pour dye into the water 3 times while it's in the water, in the pan, you know. And so it's going to get more dye. It is not going to be even. I'm also using purple, which is going to make it even less even, but I'm totally cool with that. I figure if it's super dramatic, the difference, I can always go ahead and blend it a little bit. But what I'm going to end up doing with this batch is actually just splitting the top lengthwise a bunch of times and kind of breaking that into pieces and just pulling them out at random I guess intervals in a random order so that it's just all mixed up when the finished yarn. I also do this a lot. I do not know anyone else who does it, but I'll use the water with the vinegar to actually cook the yarn in that I soaked it in. I'm sure someone else does it. That just helps the dye strike more completely and hopefully more quickly, but honestly with purple, it's not gonna go like that. A lot of people already know this, but the red and the blue that are mixed together to make the purple will not strike at the same speed, and I believe they strike at different temperatures as well. So it's challenging. You're probably going to have some variation. If you're not okay with that, being serious, just buy top that's already dyed. If you want it to be perfect and homogeneous, that is probably not how it's going to go down. So you deserve to know that. This is my second time pouring that dye on there. And so this is my last layer and my last bottle full of fake Powerade Zero. Don't drink this. Don't put this in the Powerade where your kids can find it. Please don't do that. It's not toxic, but you probably don't want them to drink it. And then I'm going to dilute that dye with the vinegar water again. I'm getting it ready to just go ahead and put it right on my stove and cook it. Sometimes I put this pan in the oven to cook it. It's just completely kind of whatever's going on, especially if it's hot. Not the pan, the weather. I don't want to turn the stove on. I'll put it in the oven. I usually do that around 180. Just kind of depends what I'm doing, but I also don't use any of this stuff for food, including that tongs you just saw. Big blob of dye on my arm. You can see that right there. I just figured I'd point it out. Everybody makes a mess when they do this. So next, I'm going to go ahead and grab that superwash roving and soak that for about 20 minutes with those neps. Sorry, this is out of focus. I wanted to make a tweed yarn, so I went ahead and dyed those neps 5 different colors. But while I was soaking them, I wanted to just put them in a colander. I did not want to have to fish those all out loose. I do have a tiny like lingerie bag that I could have used, but that colander was right there, and I just figured I'm going to use it. This vinegar water is not toxic. It's fine. So that top came from Sheepshed Studios, and again, it is superwash. I am going to use that for a project down the line that we're going to do on camera and see if I fail or if I manage to get the effect I want. We'll see. I dyed it with a mixture of brilliant blue, black, and some of the purple from the sweater BFL that we just put on the stove. By the way, left that stove on simmer, so it will never boil. It'll just heat that water up until it's steaming a little bit. It also won't quite simmer because the pan's so big, but I'm all right with that. So I'm just moving the roving around a little so I can get dye on the bottom. Did not do as good a job as I would have liked getting it very saturated. You can see at the end it's just not as dark as I was hoping for. It's still pretty cool, but as I want it for a particular purpose, I don't know, I'm still kind of concerned that it's not going to work. But those are all set. I went ahead and cooked them on high for about 2 hours and checked them later. You'll see that after the blue had not struck completely, so I went ahead and left them on about another hour and then let them cool all night. And when I turned them off, the dye had still not completely absorbed. So I was like, well, if I have to rinse it, I'll just rinse it in the morning. But then when I came back in the morning, I did rinse it and the water was completely clear. So it continued to strike for a while, even after I turned off the heat. So that was pretty awesome. I am just going to cover my counter with some plastic before I do those neps that I showed you. I had a bunch of colors of dye stock already mixed up, and I just grabbed 5. I'm going to make a tweed roving with this, and I wanted to just basically get some brilliant and unplanned kind of colors out of them. I did, you'll see, roll each one of these up into like a little packet in the plastic wrap. I didn't get too crazy with this. I just wasn't that concerned that I'd have issues. They turned out perfect. And the way that I actually heated these is I put them in my microwave all at once for 2 1-minute intervals to heat them. And in between, you will see, I went ahead and soaked that dye up. I didn't want them to get all like muddy colored. They'll all turn brown if you mix a bunch of colors together. So I just did 5 different colors. Thought that would be pretty cool. Now, at this time, my husband was actually working on that closet I mentioned in an earlier video. He was still home for the holidays, and he was having a little bit of trouble. He was on the struggle bus a little with a piece of the drywall that he put in. He was mad. So you're going to hear me in about a minute bellowing my commiseration to him about how it's unfortunate that things just don't go perfectly right the first time sometimes. That man has the patience of a saint. I am not joking. I mean, to live with me, you kind of have to, but it's crazy. It's like unnatural. He's like Buddha.
How come it never just goes together like bang, bang, boom?
I promise that was commiseration. I'm just checking here to make sure there's dye underneath. You can obviously see that, but trying really hard not to agitate, because as I said, BFL and I felt it every time. Until this time. It's perfect, you guys. It's perfect. You're gonna see me spin it later. Isn't that pretty? Ugh, love it. So this is where I'm just showing that blue was not fully exhausted yet, but by the time I took it out the next morning, it was definitely fully exhausted. Turned out nice, but maybe not as dark as I wanted it to. Oh, steamy. And here's the finished roving, not quite dry, but completely unfelted. As I said, the blue is not as dark as I was hoping for. I may add some black, but overall, I'm pretty happy. And I'm thrilled that you came and joined me for this little dyeing session. We will see you soon.